Hello and welcome to Future Balls. I'm Nathan Waters.
I'm Tristan Grace.
We've got balls in a thing. We spin it and we pull them out and we combine them into future things.
New ideas. That's the game. Well, that's the idea.
We're going to do it differently this time, though. We'll start with two.
Yeah, two things to mix it up. And the first one is mass surveillance.
Masturbation?
Well, maybe you could masturbate on mass surveillance.
Okay.
And the next one is mutual credit. Mass surveillance and mutual credit. Okay. Jesus.
They are polarizing, though. They're not the same.
They're not the same. Oh, I can think of some connections here anyway, like something new. That, I mean, the amount of mass surveillance actually limiting the amount of credit that you actually gain. Like, so if we're talking about mutual credit, maybe we should just roughly define that. That is, my understanding of that is comes from the Hollow and how you get credit mutually.
Solid.
Yeah, very solid.
I'll try. Mutual credit is like a form of it's you could almost argue it is like the oldest form of currency. It actually occurred before the typical fiat, and even before the idea of bartering. Like this is whole David Graeber's whole idea was that what we initially did was we basically just like we traded things with each other, and we just kind of kept either a mental record or a physical record of like an accounting system of like, okay, this person gave us this, so we owe them in the future. We're in their debit. And so mutual credit in the modern context, you can imagine like mutual credit cryptocurrencies where it's kind of like a double entry accounting system. So your supply can breathe because you can actually go into negative balance. So I can give you, a bunch of apples with no money. I can give you a bunch of apples and you have no money, and I'm like, that's okay. Like you just go into like negative like 10 credit, and then when you go and provide some service or product to someone else, your balance then goes up. So it's like this breathable thing where it's more of like it's more like accounting. Imagine if money was just accounting rather than tokens that we hand around. It's like just keeping account of like who owes each other what, IOUs between each other and the whole community.
Kind of like a form of a social debt, really, that you're indebted to this person on this ledger, and it says that, oh, well, you need this many apples back and all of that. You've taken this much, and I'm guessing it doesn't need to be specific to like
it's not individual. It's not like he owes me and I'm going to go break his knees if he doesn't pay me back. It's debt
in a community
system. Yeah. So like the community's given you something and you owe them back something at some point in the future, but there's no interest on that. You're not paying interest on repayments. It's not like a loan from a bank. It's you can safely sit at negative some balance and not have to be concerned about it.
Hell yeah.
And, which is a huge change how we think now. Like people now are like, oh, I'm in negative balance. Shit, bad.
Time to panic.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is combining that with mass surveillance. That is actually maybe a time to panic. That with mass surveillance, if you actually know everything about the person and you apply that to mutual credit, is it kind of like giving them a credit score, or is it there's more than that to it? It's rather than just giving them another number, because then that number, say a credit score or how much you can borrow, just becomes the new normal, the new level. This is kind of someone staking their own reputation or your own idea against and letting them actually borrow more. I don't know. I'm going very negative when I start thinking about mass surveillance combined with mutual credit. Whew.
Yeah, because one's traditionally like positive and one's traditionally negative. Unless you could somehow spin. I don't know, we could spin either side. Like, is there a way to say mass surveillance can be a positive thing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Like, imagine actually recording everything in the entire world
logging,
nonstop. Yeah, like say life logging, and doing that like, with proper mass surveillance. Like everything is put in towards a computer, into the internet, into a machine. Like with that, you could actually know everything and know what credit could be needed or what needs need to actually be satisfied. Like I talk about an allocation of capital. If you actually had all of that information at your fingertips, you could allocate that incredibly well. The problem, of course, comes down to like, only having a few people in control of that, hiding it from others. But say if it was a totally open source or totally free and uncontrolled mass surveillance, that could lead to lots of cool shit. It could lead to massive amounts of debt there. Because, okay, I want to expand it a little bit further. What's to stop having a debt limit of, near infinity, like, say, billions and billions of dollars? Because if you had mass surveillance and every single person was fully mass surveilled, they could say, hey, look, I want $1 million. And you're like, okay, sure. You just write it on a computer screen saying, you've got $1 million. Go and fucking spend it. Now, where could they actually spend that? Where could they actually do that? Like, sure, they may say they want all this
Lambos.
money. Well, yeah, say they go and buy a whole bunch of Lambos. They go and do all of that shit. But you'd have
Universal basic Lambo.
Yes. Why isn't that a UBL? Everyone gets a UBL. But see, if that's what everyone wanted, then, you could actually scale it up. That's just another reallocation of capital, right? Because if you gave everyone this crazy limit in mutual credit, like they could borrow and take and do as much as they wanted, if they're still just numbers on the screen until they actually do something in the real world, that doesn't actually impact the economy. And so with proper mass surveillance, you could actually watch it and see what the individual does, rather than just taking all of their borrowed money and chucking it into dark pools and investment banks and all this other shit to actually just make more money. They're getting out there, spending it, and actually circulating it around. I would love to actually.
That would be cool if you limited it to, like, you made a distinction between bits and atoms, maybe something like that. Like,
that's cool.
Like, obviously, if you have unlimited money and you're spending it in a digital economy, then it's way less. Like, you could have unlimited digital Lambos, and it doesn't harm anyone. There's no externalization of harm there, or there's little, because it's like, okay, you're running the computers that keep track of the number of Lambos you own.
Dude, that is such a good point. Like, the whole digital economy applied with, say, infinite money that's just registering on there. That because again, the crazy stupid inefficiencies in the digital economy right now by, like, locking goods with a marginal cost of zero behind gateways, scarcity, artificial scarcity. It's a full-on economic waste right there. But if you applied that into the real world, if still, I remember reading tweets from Notch, the Minecraft guy, saying that, well, sure, I've got billions of dollars, but what do I do at night? I go and sit at home and sit on my computer and, like, refresh Twitter and look at a screen. And it's like,
yep.
I don't know.
Well, so that's the thing with, like, if you play out that thought experiment of, like, okay, if you just gave everyone unlimited mutual credit money, it's just accounting at the end of the day, then it breaks the whole economic thing. And it also exposes, like, what the fuck is the point of an economy? The point of the economy is to, I guess, like, reduce the friction between, like, people and people transacting and trading and doing the things they want to do and achieving the things they want to achieve. So if you have $1 trillion in imaginary money, like, it wouldn't really matter. It's more about, like, how fast does that flow throughout the economy, so that you're able to every individual in that space is able to achieve what they want to achieve, regardless of money. And that's what I love about mutual credit, because it's like, it gives everyone almost like access to free money. So in most mutual credit systems, they do have, like, some sort of algorithmically determined credit limit, so you don't break the current economics of, like, oh, this person just gave themselves, like, $10 million.
A couple of friends.
So they do it
just going back and forth
with friends. Yeah, so there are usually artificial limits at the moment, but you could experiment with things where there are no limits. Then it's like, how does it play out? Do people just, do they, like, I guess if they try to take the current scarcity-based economic mindset into an economy like that, they'll still do the same thing where they're still like, hoard. I must hoard it. Like, but then it's like, well, why are you hoarding it? Like, it's literally numbers in a fucking accounting system. What's the point?
I think within reason. So I remember reading, I think it was in a rationality community and all of that, but it was about abundance, that once you actually get to a level of abundance with resources, you actually start getting this, massive levels of innovation, and the actual usage of the resource actually drops. So, say a good example is, say, like, hard drive sizes and stuff. That at this point, it's hard drive space is, like, relatively infinite. Like, you can kind of keep as much as you want. You have, like, the data hoarders and all of that.
You can only download so much 4K porn.
Yeah, exactly. There's only so much out there. And, so the same thing with, say, computation. Like, that was what the article was about, is that computation now is, like, you can pretty much have as much as you want cryptocurrency did kind of mess with that a little bit. But
machine learning.
Yeah, well, and machine learning. Yeah, that's true. But I guess with so much of it, once you actually had this like near infinite supply, I mean, machine learning is a great outcome of that, is actually realizing that, hey, we don't need to be stingy and like, hyper optimize it. We can actually just make them do it again and again and again, and applying that to resources. Let's say like food is another good example now, that obesity everywhere is because we've just got unlimited access towards fucking food. So you just give infinite access to all these different resources and things will pop up. Of course, utopian, there will be cracks in this system, and it'll be really great to see where the cracks would occur. But holy shit, there could be a crap load of innovation before the cracks appeared.
Yeah, definitely.
We should add a third ball, hey.
Ooh.
Dun, 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 how are we going to combine this shit? Oh, fuck, fell onto the ground. Bingo ball machine. What did you
hazard.
Do? And the third ball is, dun, 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 lab meat. Ooh.
What? Oh, these are so all over the place. Mutual credit, lab meat, mass surveillance.
Mass surveillance. Ooh. I like this.
Well, the first thought I have on lab meat is a funny dark one. Would you eat lab-grown human?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why not? Long pig, nothing better.
Because technically it's ethical. I mean, unless they're doing the thing where they're harvesting the cells from humans to make the lab-grown meat.
I don't see there being any ethical problem with that. Like, sure, if I've bite my nails, and I'm sure I've probably swallowed a nail or two. Like, well, a bit of it. I try not to, obviously. But like little bits of skin and whatever, that's just still human cells. And if you're just scaling that up, yeah, why not? You suck on your blood when you hurt your finger. Everyone has this weird thing about treating the human body as divine or sacred. It's like, fuck it, it's meat.
It's divine cells.
Would you eat human?
The best cells. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm vegan, so I don't even know what I'd lab grown meat. Like, I've got to the point now where like all these things like Beyond Burger and stuff like that, they taste too much like meat that I don't like them. Because I'm used to there's definitely some shitty veggie patties. There's some fucked ones, but there's some good ones as well. That are just purely they're just plant based. They're not doing any crazy lab grown stuff. Yeah. So I actually think even when lab grown meat comes out, like I won't be interested, honestly, because I won't like the taste.
Yeah, well, especially if they're focusing on the taste of meat, then sure, there's not going to be a lot there. But their new flavors, maybe they could actually experiment with new things. That once we get over this whole thing of trying to replicate meat, what they've really created with their lab-grown meat is new flavors and new textures and a new approach to food.
Yeah.
So
maybe. Yeah.
I'll just say we could go a little bit further with this, a little bit darker. Now imagine lab-grown meat, but you can have it of different people. You say like, oh, cool, this is Tristan Grace's lab-grown meat, and I've bitten off some bits, and it's just growing it from me, and see what I taste like. You can see what your wife tastes like. You can see what your kids taste like. You can see what everything around the world actually tastes like as you nibble on all of that. And then with the mass surveillance there, that gets a little bit worrying if you're, chomping on everyone around the world.
Dude, I'm pretty sure I've heard of a startup that is quite literally doing that.
Oh, really?
Or wanting to do that. Like, they're actually trying to lab grow like celebrities.
That's hilarious.
Imagine like eating Obama and Trump and Kim Kardashian.
It's funny. I don't have problems with eating a human in the abstract sense, but once you actually know that this is a cloned cell, or it is DNA essentially from an actual person, and it's identified and you've got their picture up, that's where I start feeling a little bit icky.
Especially if you prefer your lab-grown celebrity meat to be well-aged. Like toddler age, usually. It'd be nice.
Yeah, human veal. Good Lord. Okay.
Well, this one's been aged, 10 months.
So we do some mutual credit with the human meat, right? With the lab-grown meat. It doesn't even have to be human meat. It is lab-grown meat. So lab-grown meat could be kind of any type of animal. I mean, it could be actually maybe used a lot for livestock or other carnivores. I guess they eat soy. I don't know much about that.
What, feeding them to themselves? You get an infinite loop of...
Yeah, well, if you can actually... With lab-grown meat, if you can make any type of meat that you need, that would upset a lot of different things. It doesn't just have to be like, the whole hedonistic approach of, oh, cool, now we can eat whatever the fuck we want. That doesn't really change society that much, apart from getting people to debate endlessly online, I'm sure.
I mean, at some point, lab-grown meat is basically just like it's growing protein.
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't even need to be called meat, really.
No.
It's like flavored grown protein.
Yeah, get your protein this way rather than doing soy.
Maybe you could have mass surveillance that monitors the health of the population and administers protein injections where needed.
I guess it kind of applies that when you start seeing your body and like every part of you as kind of part of like, if that can be lab grown and that actually attached to you. So you're kind of surveilled nonstop there. And what you don't really need to surveil the meat. What you really need to do is surveil the memes that come from the meat. So the mass surveillance stops being about the actual atoms of meat. It becomes the bits, the mimetic bits that are produced from the meat. So that is what it could all absolutely focus onto. Oh, and then that becomes the mutual credit, because you're not actually, who gives a shit about like the meat that's the mutual credit's attached to? It's the memes that are produced by the meat to actually go and do things. As we keep on becoming more and more of a blob, sure, we think we're eating blobs, but we're also changing into blobs of meat and protein.
It's that sketch, the thinking meat sketch.
Yeah,
the aliens.
The short story, yeah. They're made of meat.
Made of meat, yeah.
Really, really good short story. Definitely worth looking up. It's They're Made of Meat for people who haven't read it.
It's a video.
Is it? Oh, okay. I read the short story. Well, there we go. It's a video too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to go more deeper into mutual credit and how that could actually apply to it all. Because where would society fracture along those lines? If you gave everyone because you would have, say, bad actors that just wanted, say, 1 million Lambos on their giant farm in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
And it'd just be waste for the sake of waste. Like, think of Instagram influencers just fucking burning a bunch of Lambos or something.
Yeah, I've thought a bit about that. The positive side, the kind of ideal mutual credit is you have people just helping each other out in the community and not hoarding. And yes, some people will probably end up with more mutual credit than others, but ideally they should be ending up with that because they're providing something that people actually want. But see, then you, if you go along that angle, then you start getting into the idea of oh well, fucking Apple provides what people want, so they're going to end up with a $2 trillion mutual credit valuation. And it's well, that's a bit different. I think maybe you have to pair it in with this idea of commons ownership. If you have private, the private ownership of the means of production, capitalism, if you pair capitalism with mutual credit, I think you are going to have issues. That's not to say that, a lot of people think capitalism is markets and trading, and we can't get rid of that. It's that's got nothing to do with capitalism. It's all about private ownership of means of production. So if you can make
trading happens
commons,
in any economic system.
Yeah. Markets have existed long before capitalism came around. So yeah, how do you have a system where it's you're all about increasing the maximum velocity of flow? So another big thing they talk about in the holochain space, Art Brock, one of the co-founders, he talks about think of currency as current C, seeing in the currents. And so it's all about flows of value and kind of surfacing those flows. So it's all about maximizing the velocity of flows and creating different currencies, mutual credit currencies that are all about helping you see flows of value throughout a living organism, which is the society.
So maybe that's where mass surveillance really helps out. It's with all of those externalities that aren't captured in the current system. With mass surveillance, they could actually be captured. If everything was recorded by an economic actor, say if you wanted to be a part of this mutual credit, then everything, say, was recorded. You were put into a mass surveillance type of thing. Then that could really, that could really capture a lot of the shit that could end up happening from that, because how it's all going to be, treated and interacted with. What's the whole? I forget what the meme is, but the idea that capitalism and all that, they work quite well because you're voting every time you buy something, and you have current democracy and all that. You're only voting whenever there's an election. But say if you were surveilling everything, if you actually had non-stop understanding of how that was impacting the person, like, all of that credit, you could capture all of their memes, you could capture everything, and as they actually start acting differently, that's a vote on whether they should be getting more or less, or lots of opportunities for abuse here, but there are a shit ton of opportunities for positivity as well, of better growth.
Another maybe this will help go in a direction. Another thing that Arthur Brock has talked about in one of his posts was he had this idea of if you could visualize flows and visualize the health of, say, some organism. So one example he gave is like, okay, well, imagine you're running a company right now that has, is reasonably sizable, like let's say a couple thousand employees or whatever. The only way the CEOs at the moment can kind of gauge the health of that company is through all these reports of, data and analytics and statistics and reports from different hierarchical systems and stuff like that. So one idea he had is like, well, humans aren't great at like computers are great at, churning through numbers and trying to find patterns. But humans, if you just feed them a bunch of data and numbers, they're not going to really get what's going on, really. Even if they say to themselves they understand what's going on, they probably don't. So his idea was like, imagine you can see the health of any system in the same way as like, remember those like 90s screensavers of like fish in an aquarium?
Yeah, I love them.
Where they're like swimming around. So his idea is something along the lines, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but if you could just glance at that thing and you could just tell whether the ecosystem is healthy. So maybe the way the fish are swimming is directly being fed by the data of that entity. So if the data is showing really bad stats, like it's just not healthy, then the fish, maybe they look a little bit sad. Like when you look at a goldfish in a dying, like if it's floating in the tank, it's dead. If it's being really kind of like slowly moving and the plants in the aquarium are a bit grotty and there's slime on the wall and stuff like that, like you can in a glance understand whether there's a healthy ecosystem happening. And if you're actually like pairing that data up to real stats, then I don't know. There's something there where like you bring it down to a human level where humans can really understand the health of something without having to churn through data.
I can see it matrix level, maybe like say all this different code coming down that's maybe color coded or something like that. So it's kind of like weird things happening around. Like say if you went fully literal with your thing like fish, I'm imagining a front-end engineer there trying to code in saying, oh, well, if the data says this, make fish sick. I was like, well, no. It's kind of like you're seeing patterns in the code as it actually goes through. And like you're trying to get the feeling for the woman in the red dress. Like, you're seeing an agent just over here or something as the flows happen all around you.
Yeah, someone still has to make that. I don't know.
Well, if you've got the raw data, like if it is, I guess maybe a couple of steps up from zeros and ones, or rather than reading hexadecimal, if you color code hexadecimal, I don't know. I like this idea though of actually seeing the system in real time,
especially if you do it in like VR or AR or like a holodeck. You can walk into an environment and you can understand the health of it.
I like that.
And interact with it somehow.
You could get some lab-grown meat to actually, you could kind of encourage it to watch it in the right way. If the meat starts to spoil or if it tastes worse, you know that the system's actually performing worse.
Oh, no.
You've got meat growing based on how well the system performs.
Sales are down, the meat's festering again.
Yeah, and that's what the workers eat. Improve the bottom numbers and you get better meat. And we're watching you. You better eat this. Don't you throw it away. This is mass surveilled.
The meat must grow.
Oh, man. Oh. That was random and weird, but I liked doing the ball a bit later on, the third topic later on.
Yeah. It brings in different stuff. Those three topics were like, wait, none of them are connected.
Well, it's good. That's the point.
The fact that we've even built bridges between those is fucking amazing.
Oh, here's hoping we get even weirder ones next week.
Hells yeah.
I'll catch you guys then.
See yous.
Bye.
Bye.